Yeah, wow. Oh, it's on. How fun. Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, I'm super excited to be here. And before I kicked off, I wanted to say it's like been really cool getting to know a lot of you, and what a lot of awesome vendors here, and like really cool to be around like the best brands doing the best work. Really, really inspiring stuff. I figured since my talk is about end-to-end personalization and a personalized experience, I'd personalize this talk a little bit for the room. Could you do me a favor and raise your hand if you love dogs? Okay, everyone with your hand down, like, honestly leave. You will hate this talk. It will make no sense to you. That's the only level of personalization. I don't have, like, an AI or anything. But yeah, I do want to caveat it with saying I'm going to talk very little about email. Email is huge for us. It's a big part of what we do, but we see how we handle our customers' data and our relationship with our customers as being a lot more than just email. So I figured before I sort of talked at you for 20 minutes, you should know a little bit about me and at least where I come from, sort of why I have the opinions I do. So I haven't always been at the Farmer's Dog. I wasn't born there or anything. I actually spent the first couple years of my career at a company called Merlin Entertainments, sort of doing all things CRM, email, customer insights. No one has ever heard of Merlin, so don't worry. The portfolio of brands, though, if you've ever been to a Legoland park, a Madame Tussauds, the London Eye, the Orlando Eye, we managed all of those brands. And I mainly mention it because I actually only moved to the Farmer's Dog about 6 months ago. So especially seeing all the brands here, I was realizing I'm 100% like the token startup speaker that every conference has. And so I think it's really easy when you're at a startup to get up there and be like, oh, we have an in-house tech team. How cool is that? There's only 5 people, so my approval process is like grabbing my founder at tacos and asking him what he thinks about our emails. But I come from a huge company. Merlin's 30,000 people, so I can relate on a very visceral level with a lot of the struggles you guys have been talking about for the past couple days. So what is the Farmer's Dog, right? So we actually started just a few years ago when Brett, who's one of our co-founders, he adopted his dog, Jada. She's the love of my life. She's in the office every day. She's wonderful. And when he first adopted Jada, he basically found that she was basically sick for the first 2 years of her life. She was throwing up all the time. She had skin and coat issues. And for any of you, who have a dog or even a child, it's so hard to watch someone you love who's a member of your family go through something so difficult. So he did everything. He went to tons of different vets. He tried literally every food on the market, and Jada just wasn't improving. And then finally, he went to a vet who recommended that he try cooking for her. Simple recipes, chicken, rice, and it was almost like a miracle. Literally within 2 or 3 days, all of Jada's symptoms got better. She was much more lively. Her coat was like shining. She was a better weight, and she was just a happier, healthier dog. And so that kind of led Brett to think, like, what the hell? Like, why isn't this a thing? Why did it take me so long to figure this out? And so he started really looking at the pet food industry and talking to vets. And what he basically learned is that home cooking is a great solution for a lot of dogs. But dogs aren't humans. They have completely different nutrient needs. They have a lot of vitamins and minerals in their diet that we don't have in ours. So for a lot of dogs, it's unfortunately not really feasible for their human to cook for them long term, even if they have a really bad reaction on kibble. So this kind of led him to look for a brand that did fresh food cooking. And I think like a lot of startups, our origin story is he saw an opportunity in that no brand was doing it. And he wanted a brand that was transparent, that was honest, and that made fresh food for really healthy dogs. And so he and our other co-founder, Jonathan, went out and built that brand. And so I kind of thought I'd take at least a minute in saying, I did come from a company with 30,000 people and moved to a company that has about 1,000th of that, and what I've kind of learned just being in that space. And the first thing I kind of want to talk about was this idea of the disruptor mentality. Probably naively, when I was at Merlin, I kind of thought that all startups, like they saw a huge profit to be made, and they went in and found a niche in the industry. And what I've actually found working at a startup and interacting with a lot more startups, we have a lot of partners at other startups, is that 9 times out of 10, a startup comes around because they've realized that they can make a customer experience better. So in the theme of customer first, that's really where we come from and where a lot of startups do. So I actually like the example of Spotify. Do you guys remember when we were paying 99 cents for every single song, and you only had like a 2 gigabyte iPod, and if your music didn't fit on it, like it's just money you basically threw away in the trash? And then Spotify came along and was like, yo, we can stream, and actually you can pay like $10 a month. Took down a titan of the industry just because they made a better customer experience. They put the customer first. And the other thing is, I think we have a lot of reasons to say no, whether it's like capital expenditure, we don't see the ROIC, the ROAS, the ROI, whatever it be. There's a lot of sort of reasons to say no. But I think startups are just naturally a little bit better at saying yes when it comes to a customer experience. So I just want to share like an example from Merlin. We had a huge struggle with check-in at the hotels. If you think about a family coming with like 4 or 5-year-old kids, they walk into a Legoland hotel and the kids go crazy. They're running all over the place. And as a parent, you're trying to check in, you're trying to like sign off for this $800 hotel you just got. Like it's a really horrible experience. And so what we wanted to do is just have online check-in, right? Should be super straightforward. Basically, I'm gonna name her Joanne. Her name wasn't actually Joanne. But Joanne from finance was like, that's not in the capital expenditures for this year. And I think we very quickly say, oh, okay, like that's a reason not to do it. But I think if you put yourself in the customer's shoes, like are they standing in line saying, we're totally okay with waiting in this batshit crazy line because Joanne from finance isn't approving the capital expenditure? Like, no, they're thinking this is so annoying, I hate this. And so I think startups are just partly because we're more nimble, we're smaller, but we're so passionate about saying yes to customers. So if you'll allow me a little example from the farmer's dog, we ship to 48 states. We don't ship to Alaska or Hawaii. Logistically, it's a nightmare. From a technology end, it's a nightmare. But we had a customer who emailed us and said, look, I just got this incredible job offer in Alaska. I really want to take it, but I will not move if you can't send food to Alaska, because she loves the food so much, and her dogs have just seen crazy health improvements. And so at my old job, we would have sat down and said, sorry, don't ship to Alaska. Like, you're kind of out of luck. Instead, our engineering team put their heads together for an afternoon and built out a single user functionality so we could ship to Alaska. I mean, talk about putting the customer first, right? Like, they spent an entire afternoon building it just for her, just because we wanted a customer to have a good experience. And it kind of ties in to sort of the whole, I guess, point of my overarching talk is, I don't think it's enough to say that we put customers first, and I don't think it's enough that you like your customers. I think you have to love them. You have to be completely obsessed. And it's easy for us at the Farmer's Dog because our customers are dogs. We love them. Borderline obsessed. I'm actually kind of worried about our mental sanity sometimes. And what I mean by this is, when I was asked to talk about end-to-end personalization, there's obviously technology needs, and you can go with a partner. There's the buy-or-build discussion. But there's a reality behind end-to-end personalization that I don't think really gets talked about enough. And so to kind of talk about it, I want to introduce what I'm going to call the 52-15 dichotomy. So when you ask email marketers, basically, how good is your program? 52% rate it good or excellent. Which when I saw this, I was like, damn, we're like kind of hard on ourselves. Like only half of us think we're doing a pretty good job. And then I kind of looked at the other side of the coin of when you ask customers, like, how often do you find marketing emails helpful? And only 15% of them find them frequently or regularly helpful. I don't think, despite 10 years of talking customer first, we've really nailed it, right? We kind of just annoy people if we're really like harsh on ourselves. And so at the Farmer's Dog, we're so passionate about being fresh food and that our customers have a good experience that I think we're looking at email in a really different way. So I think a lot of times when you sit down to design an email program or talk about what your CRM is going to look like, I'd say 9 times out of 10, the first conversation point is what's the ROIC going to be, what's the ROAS, what's our ROI, how are we going to optimize engagement? And we've tried to go at it in a very different way. So instead of starting our conversations with what's the ROI going to be, we start our conversations with how do we help dogs live healthier, longer lives. And for us, it's a very natural progression. We know about Jada's transformation. You guys have seen her. She's the best dog. So happy now that she's on the food. So we know that diet's a huge part of it. So dogs, just like humans, there's a lot of things that go into their health and well-being, their activity levels, their general breed, genetics. But diet is something we can have an active impact on. And then we kind of had this insight, which is obvious when you say it, but weird when you kind of come to it, that dogs rely on humans for literally everything. You know, they can't go out without us. They can't eat without us. And so it was really important to us to know that every dog-human relationship is unique. So I think a lot of other companies have sort of been satisfied to say, oh, like they might own a Great Dane, they might own a Chihuahua. We'll talk to Great Dane owners and Chihuahua owners differently. The reality is I have 3 Australian Shepherds, and every single one of my relationships with my dogs is different. I feel very differently about Annie than I do with Winter and than I do with Emmy. So that was a really important insight for us, that every dog is unique and every dog-human relationship is unique. And so that kind of led us to the central answer, for lack of a better term, where we were going to make personalized, fresh, healthy dog food, because that helps dogs live longer and be healthier. But it was so important to us that it's ridiculously convenient for the humans. Because when you're planning your life, the last thing you want to worry about is like, oh, I wonder what my dog's going to eat for dinner. And so that naturally, because we had a conversation in this way, it led us to develop our systems and processes, and I think in a very different way. So an example of it is we have a custom CRM that feeds absolutely everything we do, all of our personalization elements, all of our shipping inquiries, everything. And the reason we built it custom is because it's really important that our CRM makes life for the humans convenient and tracks everything about their dog. So we needed a system that was sophisticated enough. If the human's going on a trip and they need their box to show up 2 weeks early, we can take care of that while also looking at this dog is increasing or decreasing their calories, or they're switching recipes, or their vet's made a different recommendation. So I mean, you guys are email marketers. You can see how those data tables start to get really crazy, right? But we needed a CRM that could do it and make it look really easy. And so I figured the best way to kind of walk through what end-to-end personalization is, I'll just take you through the life cycle of a pretty typical customer for us. And so I've just put in there too, like what it really means to move way beyond just personalizing to first name. So for us, the first interaction on the website fuels everything that happens. So I'd highly recommend you guys go to thefarmersdog.com, check out what I mean. But basically, the minute you put in your dog's name, everything becomes personalized to Emmy. And we ask a lot of questions. We ask the weight of your dog. We ask what breed it is. And that's all in the interest of being able to design the best meal plan for them, to know exactly how many calories they need to eat a day. And it's funny, because when I first went to the Farmer's Dog, a lot of my email marketing friends were like, wow, look at all these fields you have available for targeting and personalization. And yeah, it's really cool to be an email marketer and have all this data at my fingertips. But it's not driven by the want to segment. It's driven by the need because we need to get their dog the right number of calories. It's a very different mindset that we have. So then, unless you sign up right away, most people are going to get our email onboarding. And I don't want to like necessarily pass out our playbook. I think a lot of people would know why it would kind of make us uneasy. But I mean, you guys are email marketers. You know if we're collecting breed issues, anything, right? We can segment a lot of different ways. And so our number one priority is to make dogs healthier and happier. So we'll talk to large breeds very differently than small breeds. If your dog has specific issues, we'll talk about that. But most importantly, and this shocks a lot of people when I tell them, in our welcome series, if you don't buy the food, we're going to tell you how to make it at home. We publicly pass out our recipes, basically. Because at the end of the day, I'm not looking at my success metric of how many orders. I'm looking at how many dogs have we made healthier. And so there's a lot of reasons why the farmer's dog might not be the right fit for you. And so instead, we just pass out the recipes. Because even them cooking at home, we count as a really big win. And so then you decide, OK, I've gotten the email onboarding. In my world, you're like, wow, those emails are beautiful. That email marketing manager is really cool. You get a trial. So we do a 2-week trial. And so I just want to run through what you kind of get in your first box. Apologies about my poor photography skills. But this thing on the far left is a completely personalized feeding guide. So in this case, the dog's name is Aspen. So we say, OK, here's how you're going to feed Aspen. You're going to cut this off the pack. Then you're going to do this many calories a day. It's completely personalized to your dog. On the pack itself, this is the most underrated personalization we do. In Aspen's case, that pack has 401 calories of food, because that's what our vet nutritionists recommend that she be on. It's completely catered to the recipe she enjoys. Completely personalized food. And then we also have a transition guide. So this one is funny too, because if you're a dog food company, you want dogs to eat as much food as you want, right? Because that's how you make money. And we actively tell people to eat less food, because dogs, just like humans, have a sensitive stomach. If they transition too quickly, they'll get sick. So we give a personalized transition guide to say, OK, if your dog was on kibble, they need to eat only 25% farmer's dog food for the first couple of days, then 50%. And it's customized based on what your dog is. So then just a little close-up of the pack. You'll see we're running a lot of personalization here. We have the dog's name. We have how many packs per day they're eating. So for a really large dog, they might be on a full pack per day, and that's customized based on the number of calories in the pack. We have the human that ordered it, and then we have the date it was cooked on. And then this is one of my favorite touch points we have. About a week into the trial, we send an SMS text that says, hi, Crystal. It's Adrian from the Farmer's Dog. Wanted to check in and see how the first few meals are going. Is Aspen enjoying the food? Are the portion sizes OK? And so this is huge for us, because this is a very conversational medium. And we've done a tricky bit of engineering with our CX team and our engineering team so that when customers respond to this, it feeds right into our CRM. So our customer service agents are able to see the entire history of the dog. They're able to see what kind of breed they are, what kind of issues they may have, the weight, and so that they can tinker anything as necessary. So then I just wanted to highlight that we went on a customer service offsite last week to talk about what customer service means to us. And this was so cool. We just put on Instagram, like, hey, customers, we're going to be out for a while. And we got crazy responses of people saying, I love that you text us to check in. And it's a general theme we see a lot, that because we really passionately love the dog so much, we get customers that email us or text us, and they say, I love that someone else loves my dog as much as me. And that means the world to us. So once you become a farmer's dog and you're on it's a subscription service, you're getting regular shipments, it's all about community building, and it's all about the dog staying happy. So a lot of times we're tinkering with calories, and then we send information about useful things for your dog. So if you have a poodle, this email might say, how much sleep does your poodle need? Or we segment a lot of different ways, and it's basically our customers reach out to us a lot because they begin to see us as sort of a resource for health and wellness information, not just a food for their dog. It's actually crazy. They go to us before their vets a lot of the time. And then I just wanted to highlight kind of 2 emails that we do regularly once you're a customer. So I talked about this a little bit in the roundtable, so apologies if it's duplicative for some people. But these aren't super flashy emails. They're not beautiful, not a whole lot of HTML going on. But they're customer-first obsession. So they're basically, when we cook your food, we send you an email before we ship it, because if you're changing your plan, we need to know that we need to change the calorie levels. There's a lot of things that can change. I think if we were more ROI focused, we wouldn't do this because it's basically a churn risk. It tells people this is the last day you can cancel your account, you can make changes to your account until this date. But we do it because people's lives are crazy and we want to make them convenient. So when someone reaches back out to us and says, oh my gosh, thanks for the reminder, I'm traveling next week, I completely forgot. Once again, the last thing we want them to be worrying about is their dog food. Keeping your dog healthy should be easy. And so even though we sort of know that this is a risk for us, that we're definitely telling people they can cancel, we do it because it makes their experience a lot better. And then, this is my favorite touch point for all the wrong reasons, and it kills me. I'm sorry if I get emotional. Dogs don't live forever. It's like the worst thing ever. They totally should. But we're like on a very serious mission to make them live as long as they can. So when dogs die, it like hits our team so hard. It's not even funny. It's regular that we see CX agents like crying, basically. And so we just send flowers. It's just the right thing to do. And we say, everyone here at the Farmer's Dog is thinking of you, sending you our deepest condolences, keeping you close in our hearts and our most present thoughts. And this is really cool to me because from a business point of view, like we would never do this if we were ROI focused. Their relationship with us is basically ending for the worst possible reason. And we very manually send very expensive flowers all over the country, right? Like, from an ROI perspective, this is the worst decision you could ever make. But it comes back to that we love our dogs so much that we really don't care about it. And then the response we get, I mean, when I think about what I want my career in marketing to be, like this is the kind of response you hope for. People saying, your company cares so much, you have a happy customer for life. It's a touch point I'll never forget. I think that's as email marketers what we want to do, right? We want to create experiences and touch points that customers never forget. And I do want to highlight this one a little bit more because I think a lot of us, we say, oh, we have ESP restrictions, we have data restrictions, we can't personalize this, that. There's no personalization running in this. We don't put the dog name in. I can tell you this is not automated at all. Every single one of the brands here has touch points that they can create with customers that you can do with the data you have right now. It's just about truly putting them first and asking what it means to really love your customers. So now that I've kind of bombarded you with everything we do, I figured I'd break down the takeaways. And I do want to caveat with saying, I know this is like very different. And I'm not saying that we can't ever talk about ROI or ROIC. Obviously, there are conversations that need to happen. I just think that as email marketers, we can do better, and that we kind of owe it to our subscribers to be a bit better. So seriously, I might be talking complete crazy. Catch me later, tell me how crazy I am, or maybe if I've said something that hit a chord or two. But these are kind of my wrap-up opinions. So in my opinion, just throwing a first name into an email isn't really personalization. I think when we talk personalization, we lose the personal aspect. There's 127,000 Adrians in the country. I think so, and that's where that dog-human relationship is so important to us. The other one is the minute you're us-centric, that's never going to get you to end-to-end personalization. It just is not going to happen. And I think 6 months ago, if I heard this talk, I'd be like, this dude is crazy. What is he talking about? But the minute someone says, what's the ROI going to be, that conversation's done. You're not going to get there. So instead, you need to ask your equivalent of how do we help dogs live longer lives? And that's different for every single company. And I'm not saying that the ROI discussion never happens. It just can't happen when you're designing the experience because you'll quickly pivot to being us-centric instead of customer-centric. And then the last bit is I can't stress this one enough. It comes so easily when you actually put your customers first. So I think it's really easy when you talk about end-to-end personalization to get weighed down in the data requirements. What partners do you go with? How do you build it? How do you code it? And it's so easy when you actually put the customers first because all the answers are so obvious. And so for us, just taking you through, we know that every dog is unique, right? That naturally led us to do the dog food that we do. And we know that dogs rely on their human for care. So it was so obvious to us that it had to be ridiculously convenient for the humans. So that led us to custom food for the dog, super easy for the human. That led us to build out a custom CRM and custom KPIs, and that is what got to end-to-end personalization. And if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have been like, this dude is totally crazy, but I promise that's actually how it happened. So really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. Seriously, send me an email, and then I wonder, my founders might be on the live stream. I hope they're not. I hooked you guys up with a discount if anyone has a dog. Brett, Jonathan, if you're listening, it wasn't me. So you can go to thefarmersdog.com/email insider. More than happy to talk to anyone about the benefits of fresh food or why we do what we do. Really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Adrian. That was great. Hang on. Questions for Adrian? I'm curious about the channels that you choose, since you've got a number of channels, including text, push, and email. How are you making choices about which channels to use to connect with people?
Yeah, I think that goes back to it becomes really obvious when we think about where our customers are in our life cycle. So the text being a really good example that we send. When your dog is potentially having problems or they're transitioning to a new food, it can be scary, especially if your dog has had health issues in the past. And so an email is such a bland touch point almost, and we felt like a text was much more conversational. And then from an operational point of view, it's a lot easier for our CX agents to be proactive with the text. So we try to be really, really thoughtful and critical about, what's the right touch point. So that's actually how the flowers came to be. We thought a note wasn't enough, and so flowers came out, which I guess is the most non-traditional touch point ever. But so I think it's just being thoughtful about the life cycle.
Ryan Phelan with Adestra. So phenomenal keynote. Loved it.
Thank you.
You mentioned a couple times that you're not ROI focused.
Mm-hmm.
To many of us in the room, that's...
I know it's batshit.
Yes.
I need to stop cussing. I'm sorry.
Okay. So here's the question. In such a small group, how scared are you that when you become ROI focused, that this dynamically changes the entire company and the flavor? What are you doing to ensure that when you get to that point, because you will, that you don't lose it?
Yeah, I think we're really fortunate. I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday in the roundtables, that we don't see sort of business needs and customer needs as being not existing in the same world. We see a lot of overlap. And for us, we're very, very fortunate that we categorically know that when we do a good job of educating people about the benefits of fresh food, and when we are leading their dogs to be healthier and happier, we see higher conversion, higher retention, longer. So I think we talk about ROI, absolutely. We have investors just like everyone else. We have growth targets. We have profits we need to fulfill. I think we've just pivoted it to we see a perfect correlation between healthy dogs and profits. And so we don't even see them existing. I don't think there'll ever be a case where our first conversation is ROI, because dogs deserve better.
Yeah. To answer your question, actually, I'm BarkBox, by the way. We do something similar, and we started 6 years ago, so we've scaled pretty quickly, and we still do the flowers with the note. Everyone from our customer service team actually signs the note personally with like some sort of story about their own experience with losing a dog, because it's such a personal, visceral thing that we spend a lot of time and we invest a lot of money in our customer service teams specifically so that we can have those touch points that are more personalized than just getting an email from us. So, I mean, if you really care about your customers, like you said, and if you love them, you're gonna invest in that even as you grow significantly. So,
Have you, Adrian, you're setting such a high bar for yourself with your customers. I'm curious if you've run across an instance yet where you've sort of set too high a bar, or you've found that you're driving expectations that are beyond your capabilities, and you're what are the ways in which some customers, as wonderful as all this sounds, may be disappointed because their expectations are so high?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I frankly don't think we can ever set our expectations too high when it comes to our customers. Once again, it's easy to say that because they're dogs, and I'm borderline obsessed. But I mean, it's easy to paint a rosy picture, but of course we do have customers who have had not ideal scenarios. And a lot of the times it's kind of ironic because we become such a resource for health and wellness information that they sort of look at us as their vet. And so anytime their dog has any kind of issue, whether it's our food or not, they're like, this is your fault. Tell us how to fix it. So I mean, there's definitely times, but it kind of goes back to, I don't think we've set the bar even high enough yet. There's definitely things in our program that are a little bit awkward and like aren't quite right yet. So I think we're always sort of setting the bar higher. I think really the goal is that every single dog in the country is on fresh food, whether it's ours or somebody else's. And so getting there is a journey, if that makes sense.
Adrian, thanks very much. That was great.
Thanks, everyone.